March 3rd, 2026 order. Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Mr. Malloy,
Here.
Mr. Hernandez,
Here.
Mr. Bernard.
Hi, Madam Clerk.
Okay, item number 1 is to dispense with 3 minutes of the workshop, February 24th. And the regular meeting, February 25th, and approve the video recordings of both meetings. Item 2 is to approve the bills. Item 3, this is an amendment. February 19th, read, authorize the purchase of multi-factor authentication hardware tokens for multi-factor authentication software for the Trumbull County Jail. And we're just amending this to show the cost of the tokens.
Sheriff Taylor, Commissioner's Office, that was my fault. It was my error in leaving that amount of money off the first journal action. So I apologize, and we're fixing it, and we're moving forward.
Item 4 is to accept a grant award from the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections for the replacement of the jail roof in the amount of $1,750,000. It's right here. Yep, no,
Yes,
Sheriff
we have
Wilson.
the sheriff. David Wilson,
Down the sheriff's office. What was the question?
Gonna talk about the 1.75 million that we received.
So it's been a problem probably since almost the jail was built. That there's been an issue with the roof and leaking. So when it rains, our corrections officers know that they have to grab the buckets and know exactly where they go. It's been for years. So I went in the jail one day and asked the corrections officer, how long has this been leaking here? And he said, well, I've been here 14 years and it's been leaking that long. So, we were able to discuss this, Major Bobby and I, about ways that we could come up with, help the commissioners find money. And we actually were contacted by the Department of Corrections, who had some grant money that come available. And we talked to the Department of Corrections representative, and we negotiated through multiple conversations and intelligently sort of Major Bobby that we were going to be granted $1.75 million towards the repair of the roof. And I will tell you that the original offer that they gave us was $1.2 million, but David was able to negotiate that up to $1.75. And I believe they had $30 million to give out, and there was emphasis to give it to more of the counties that had less money, or counties, and we got the most of any county. So we really appreciate them for that, and I appreciate Dave for his hard work, and he can speak on some of that as well. But there's still going to be the obligation on the commissioners to have the paperwork filled out. I'm sure you got the letter that was sent over so that you can have the instructions to follow for the construction program. Now, we've been here a year. We were $700,000 under budget last year. What we predicted we would come in at. We brought in a bunch of money in revenue, I think somewhere near $500,000. And now we're giving back 1.7 that the county would, 1.75 the county would never have for a repair. We're doing our part to be fiscally sound and be a team player. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we call on David Bobby, commissioners, if you guys remember, we sent a letter down to the state, to the governor's office, asking them to give some grants, some help. And a couple of days after they received the letter, Brian from the Government Affairs Office contacted me, wanted to know if we had any contacts. So I told him yes. And then that's when I went down to the sheriff's office, and David Bobby, the sheriff, and myself, along with Daryl, we made a phone call down to the rehab, and we talked to Chris. And he wanted to know if the county was going to put any money into the project. And I told him that we'd already obligated $500,000 for the boilers. So he liked that very much. So again, as the sheriff said, they offered 1.2, and through David Bobbick's connections, or he previous worked with him down there, he was able to give us another $550,000. So it's money it's good use. We put to good use, and Daryl's in the process of getting new bids for the jails to see if we can get the cost down there too. But it's like the sheriff said, it's everybody working together. So I'd like to thank the corrections department, the sheriff's department, David Bobby, and the governor's office.
That's it. And I'd just like to make a comment. I'd like to thank the sheriff and Mr. Bobby for, your efforts and for your continued success at the jail. I know that in the past, there's been a lot of issues with funding and money, and you have brought in quite a bit of money, and you've cut a lot of overtime, and you've done some things with schools that, that are really helping the county out and helping, the budget out in general. So I want to thank you both for being able to put that together. The commissioners, thank you for, putting them in the right place at the right time.
Well, it's a team effort.
Yeah. So I have, we're going to have to come up with what is it?
Well, the 500,000 we've already committed that. I think the bowlers are going to start being put in next week. I think Daryl would be here, but he's under the weather a little bit,
Right.
so he didn't want to come to our workshop.
So the 500 will count for the,
Our part of the 1.75.
right.
correct?
Okay.
David Bobby, jail administrator. The boilers are completely separate of the roof money.
Okay.
And they did start the demolition of the old boilers, I believe, yesterday morning. So they're over there now, starting that project. So it's going to be a couple weeks before they get everything torn out and the new boilers replaced. We don't really want to start the actual swap for the new boiler until we get some warmer weather, because we're not going to have heat for a couple of days. So.
But with us spending the 500,000, it showed the Department of Rehab and Correction that we were putting money into the jail, though.
Right. That's kind of how this all started. When I was up here back in December and we were talking about it, Chris Galley, the chief of the Bureau of Adult Detention, reached out to me and says, "Hey, what do you need?" So I started talking about other issues that we were having. And that's when we started talking about the roof and the plumbing issues and that kind of stuff. So that process, that first conversation was on December 2nd. We had numerous conversations after that. Chris is the chief of the Bureau of Adult Detention, and Roger Wilson and Annette Chambers Smith, the director. They've been very supportive of the project. It's been, like the commissioner said, it's been a lot of going back and forth, and not really a ton of negotiation, because they recognized where we were and what our need was. So it wasn't a lot of, arm twisting and that kind of stuff. It never was like that, but they were very supportive of the project. We still have a lot of work that we need to do on our end. We've committed, we have to spend this money this year. That was one of the agreements that they have with the money, is it has to be spent this year. So a lot of work to do before we get to the point where we actually have contractors on the roof.
But we're a lot closer than what we were.
Oh yeah, we can start.
Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
One other thing, Sheriff, while you're here, do you have any other information on those used cruisers from?
Yes, I do. Sheriff Mike Wilson, Trumbull County Sheriff's Office. I was contacted by the sheriff from Jog County. They have used cruisers that they will sell us. They're 100,000 miles, to 100 to 130. We could get those cruisers fully marked, light bars, siren, speaker system. The only thing we have to put in is the radios that we have in our cars now that we transfer in at $9,600 a piece. We plan on going up there to look at the cars, make sure they're mechanically sound, which they've assured me they are. And the sheriff wants to sell them to his sheriff's office before anybody else. The reason we are looking into these cars is that new car costs like $71,000 roughly. These are $9,600. They're ready to go, but they will replace cars in our fleet. So we have currently, I think, 8 cars over 200,000 miles, one being 260,000. And then there's another 7 or 8 that have 180,000 plus. And it's a very inexpensive way to get some cars we can use for a couple of years before they get that kind of mileage on them again. And hopefully we could be in a better situation and buy new cars by that time. Thank you.
Sure. The new car cost was, where were those at? 70-some
I think
thousand?
around 71,000.
And then we would have to outfit them?
No, that's everything included. So it
Oh,
may,
with everything included. So
Yeah.
these would be at what, 40-some thousand, or my mistake, the used ones?
these used ones have 100,000 to 130,000 miles.
That's fine.
They're $9,600 a piece. And the only thing we have to do is.
That's all?
Yes. The only
We're
thing
still
we-
going with the new ones too, right?
Yes.
This is just an addition to add to the fleet, which is good.
Yeah, so it's replacing 200,000 plus mile cars or 180,000 plus mile cars.
9,600.
They only have 4
I'll
available,
buy it for you.
coming available shortly. But we'd like to get those if it's at all possible, just to replace the 200-some thousand mile cars that we have.
I see. Okay, I
And
understand.
it buys us a few years before those cars will get up to that kind of mileage again.
Right.
Maybe we'll be in a different position and be able to buy new cars.
Okay.
Items 5 and 6 were submitted by the county engineer's office. Item 5 is to receive and place on file letter from the Trumbull County Engineer dated February 24th, indicating the office's intent to temporarily cease issuing overweight hauling permits immediately due to decreased potential for road damage attributed to frost conditions. Here,
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, Gary Schaefer, Engineers Office, number 5 is in accordance with the frost laws here in the state due to the frost and the thaw. There's greater potential for damage to the roadways. So we're going to cease issuing blanket hauling permits, overweight permits, but on a case-by-case basis, we will be reviewing those. If you got to get into some industrial areas, obviously, we're going to work with those companies to get the equipment in or get those loads in. But will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, issued accordingly. Number 6 is to approve that ODOT drafted agreement modification between the county and GPD Group in the amount of $19,300. That's for additional design services to revise those plans, get that out to bid for the 3rd time. That's for the Old Town Viaduct, our 1,100-foot bridge over on Meander Reservoir. So we're going to make some changes. After a big meeting between ODOT and VSD, we brought them in, the engineering firm, came up with some ideas to lower the cost of that and get some good competitive bids. This is to take care of that work, cover the additional design. 80% of that's funded through Eastgate. Thank you.
items 7 and 8 were submitted by Human Resources. Item 7 is to enter into an agreement with Mr. Timothy Burbaugh, Health Actuary, to produce the 2025 self-insurance actuary report, with a service fee of $1,500, and to authorize Tony Bernard to execute said agreement. Alex, you want to add anything to that?
Commissioners, Alex Eugene, Human Resources Department, being self-funded, which our health insurance program is. It is mandated, as you can see here, by our Ohio Revised Code, that we have a self-actuary report done every single year. Mr. Berghoff does this in unimaginable service. He is an actuary. He is a certified public accountant, so on and so forth. He does this for $1,500 and has never once raised his price, at least going back to, I can't even tell you when. So we are very thankful for that. To give some insight as to the magnitude of this health insurance and self-funded program, I'd like to just give you some context around what the statement of the actuary opinion gives us. What it does do is it makes sure that we're financially sound and that we have enough money in our reserves. Being self-funded, we pay all the claims, okay? We manage all the claims for health insurance, vision, dental, prescription. So with that being said, we're a year behind, so we finish out the year. So they'll be doing this for 2025 because we look at a full year's time span. In 2024, commissioners, our spend in totality, again, on health insurance, all inclusive of prescription, vision, dental, was $20,200,246. So $20 million. Okay. It is going to go up in 2025, as when everybody asks, again, why does our insurance cost so much? That's how much it costs to insure this county. $20 million 1 year is what we're paying in claims. Okay. With that being said, we have a good amount in reserves, thank goodness. Last year, it was mandated that we had at least 2.4 in reserves. I anticipate that going up year after year as claims go up. That's how life works, right? So we are fine. As of December 31st, 2025, we had 5.5 in reserves. But again, one catastrophic claim, one catastrophic loss, and wipe out those reserves pretty quickly when you're looking at spending roughly $21 million a year in claims.
How many employees does that cover?
So it covers the whole county, but we have 800 and roughly 18, don't quote me. It was 818 the last time I checked on health insurance, any sort of health insurance, medical, dental, vision. We have the a la carte plans. So 818 is roughly the number. Now that 818 is just the actual plan numbers. Then there's dependents. Then there's, so what turns into 818 plans is technically more like 1,700 actual people covered. Does that make sense? Yeah. Some are single, some are family. It just depends on, everybody's circumstances.
Alex, I was met by one of our providers downstairs. I suggested that, that we have a meeting to
Absolutely.
get a hold of Lisa or, to set something up. I think that they may have reached out.
Yeah, we work through.
Can you work with scheduling with Lisa and
Absolutely.
get something going?
Yes.
The commissioners, I think it'd behoove us to
Absolutely.
look at what we're paying for and then see if there's any kind of alternatives, within those plans, that might, that might either
Absolutely.
be able to be done. I know there's one thing that I have heard, but I don't know how this would work, is that with this plan,
Mhm.
and I think we discussed it before, there's a single plan. There's a single with significant other or wife,
Yes.
and then there's the family plan.
Well, right now there's just single and then family, but yes, there could be the option and they're looking at that.
This is
Yes.
what I brought up because, there are
Yep.
those in the county that have been kind of saying, I'm paying for my wife and
Totally get it.
they got 5 kids covered. I know it's going to be more, it's going to be, technically it's going to be, tough to get that type of a plan in order, but at least we can look at it and see what it would entail. I don't know,
Yeah, so we were on target, commissioners. I've kept you abreast of all the cost containment meetings and with the broker, and actually Commissioner Malloy sat in on the last one just because he asked to and he was here. So our target is for June or July to roll out hopefully something. We can't go 0 to 100 at once, but we can hopefully,
Right.
that's what we're marching towards. So something of offering a little bit of relief. Again, the people would have to choose that, to take
Right.
that plan. It could also be paired with less of a plan coverage too. There's ways to lessen the burden, but to be
right?
fully transparent.
It would put more burden on the families. I know that
Yeah.
with children, but we'll look at that. I don't want to get too deep into that.
But yeah, I did send you a full synopsis on that, commissioners, a while back. And that is including dates and targets we're looking to hit in 2026. So more than welcome to when they come back to the table with us in June, hopefully, maybe May, sooner than later. The broker will come in, we'll sit down and go over all that. And that was in conjunction with all the unions. So I had all the cost containment committees here. We've been working very hard to try to make a change, but I will also caution the board that the union was very, very open and honest, which I appreciate on, well, we don't necessarily want a reduction in coverage either. Well, and that's what, so, okay.
You get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for. So,
My only question is with what Commissioner Hernandez is talking about, and I know you're fully aware of it. Are there other counties that they've already doing what we're trying to look at?
I mean, every county is different. Every county is unfortunately like we have to look at, are they self-funded? Are they fully funded? So that's the first thing. So not everybody in the county is self-funded, which makes us able to amend those plans the way we want to. If we were fully funded, we would have less ability to change the plans, to change everything, quite frankly. So we have that luxury of being self-funded. So we can absolutely look at that anytime. Have I actually went out and most counties, to be fully transparent, commissioners, they solely go through a broker. The broker handles everything for them. And HR just says, okay, or whatever the case may be. So here, what I will tell you is we work hand in hand with the broker and we kind of say, this is what we want to look at. This is what we don't want to look at, or this is what we're hearing or not hearing. So it's kind of a revolving target, if that answers your question. I have to do a deep analysis of every single county, which I could do to answer your question. But The good news is we can change it if we want to. That's the good news.
Item 8 is to approve the termination of employment of probationary Evans Amanda Moore, full-time position of telecommunicator in the Trumbull County 911 Department, effective immediately. Lacey, I'm speaking.
I can. Tayce McDonough, 911 director. As you know, we have 3 probationary employees. Unfortunately, for this one, it's just not clicking. We're at the 4-month mark and we've had numerous sit downs and discussions on what needs to improve and where we need to see the progress go. And it has yet to reach that point. So at this point, we're going to cancel, discontinue her employment. The other 2, we have one who was hired before her, who's surpassed her and where she's at in training. We understand that, you know, some people take longer than others. We've afforded that ability and we're at a point now where it's just not clicking. So we're going to have to move forward. We do have several other candidates and we're obviously continually hiring and advertising, interviewing and everything like that. Hoping to get a couple more started here in the near future. The 2 that we do have currently going through, one is pretty close to being released on her own. And the other one is about 3 months into her training.
Commissioners, Alex DiVincenzi, Bush Human Resources Department. I do feel it's very important to add additional context. I actually spoke with the trainers pertaining to this specific employee. We chose to extend that probation in hopes of, you know, giving them the opportunity to maybe gain more knowledge and skill set underneath. And we, after that extension, this is where we're still at. So just for full transparency.
Item number 9 is to approve the purchase of 2 in-bed salt spreader boxes from Granger in the amount of $5,978.38 per spreader box, plus shipping for a total amount of $12,125.76. And the county will be reimbursed 75% of the total amount through a BWC grant, leaving the county a final cost of $3,031.34. Sharon,
Beat that.
do you have anything to add?
Nothing really, other than it's a nice grant. It's gonna save on people getting hurt. And he asked me to.
Oh, no problem.
How?
Yeah, so
It just
HR
doesn't-
did, it doesn't matter. You can go.
Doesn't, I don't know. It's okay.
I was not aware.
Yeah, we secured the grant.
Yeah, again, Daryl's a little under the weather, so I'll see the
Yeah,
here. But,
No problem.
Where did?
Also down the road, guys, he's looking at purchasing a couple of vehicles for this to go on. So we may see that next week on the agenda through the state purchasing program.
Did Daryl, who found the grant? Oh, okay. Okay.
Commissioners, I just want to take the opportunity to thank the Human Resources Department and my staff that it's very important. This is a grant through the Bureau of Workers' Comp. This is why we do the drug-free training. This is why we do all of the things, just to add some more context. So this is a new and improved safety improvement grant. We've put in for it in the years past and obtained things for highway. I believe highways here. This year we were able to do the salt spreaders too for the department, for the maintenance department, as well as a lift table for the recorder's office. So there was multiple things that we put in for. It's not a lot, but hey, every little bit counts. So
That helps.
it does. Yeah. So we're very proud, and I have to commend my staff. This is something that since I've come on board in this position, we apply for this grant every single year. You may not just necessarily see it because it may be awarded to, another elected official, but this year we did target, but we did, try to look at things that could help the general fund as well. So
I think commissioners, we need to commend our staff too, because I know, Alex Shera and our staff has applied for grants where, they've been successful in even the sheriff's department, and not having to utilize our grant writers. We're Julie Green and the rest of the crew here, that are able to, Gary Newbrow, all of them that are able to get these grants. And it's appreciated to be able to get those that you're looking for. I want to thank you for looking for them. All I have.
Okay. Item 10 is to designate the following listed professional design firms as pre-qualified pursuant to ORC for the purpose of future professional design projects with an estimated design fee of under $50,000 during the calendar year of 2026. I'm not going to read the rest.
So that takes care of the items on the agenda. I think the next order of business is, see, we have the city warrant here, we have Nick here. Nick's River, Regional Chamber also.
After the last meeting, Commissioner, we talked about the enterprise zone tax abatement for a company. And I had voiced it after we had the last one in Warren, which is a neighbor of this company. I had some reservations, needing some more information in regards to the number of employees and how it was going to benefit the taxpayers that are waiving their, or I should say the services that are going to be waived by the schools, by the people who receive the money. When we had the last one like this, we had talked with the chamber, Lake to River, and other entities, the building trades, about forming some form of a rubric or some form of formula on what fairly qualifies for 50%, 75%, 25%, 10-year, 5-year, 7-year. And there's many options in between. I think we could set this thing. And we've had people come to us before that have had lower numbers of years, lower amounts. After the last meeting, I've been doing my research the last week, actually. Talked with the one of the owners of Charles Manufacturing. He has a pretty good story that he told me about the growth of the company and what they actually do and how this is an investment in our future, which was a great conversation we had. I appreciate you reaching out. It was information we didn't have when we had the hearing, and there was nobody speaking. He wasn't here to tell his story. It was, I guess, the representatives telling it, but the way he told it kind of struck home with me on how this could qualify with lesser number of employees. So I invited him to be here today to kind of tell the story to us so that the public understands too why we would waive tax money and what the cost benefit is, not for the city, not for anyone in particular, but for the services that are going to be lost by waiving that tax money. I still believe we need to come up with a rubric to make it easier for the next one, because this is 4 employees. What do we do if the next one's 2? What do we do if it's 1? I mean, we can't just nilly-willy hand pick ones that we turn some down, other ones we don't turn down. I know the city has the first dibs at it, but the city is getting income tax off these employees. So they're getting something out of the game. They got skin in the game. We don't. We're waiving dollars that are going to go to provide services for, maybe it's a fire department, maybe it's a police department, maybe it's the school. So we just have to be responsible to the other taxpayers that they're paying their taxes. If we're going to waive it for someone else, why are we doing that? And what the benefit is for the other services besides the cities.
Well, before we do that, if I may, before we open it up, I also spoke with Nick Coggins, Assistant Planning Director, and he's going to present us with some knowledge about the program so we know how we got here, what the rules and regulations are. So if we may, before we call on the mayor and you, the commissioner, I'd like to turn it over to Nick.
Oh, that's fine.
And then let him do his presentation, and then we can go from there. Thank you, Nick.
So, commissioners, I handed you all a packet. I want
State your name.
sorry, Nick Coggins from County Planning Commission. In the packet, I wanted to point out the first document in this packet is the legislation that was passed by Trumbull County in 1994 to certify the countywide enterprise zone. In that, I've highlighted 2 sections, and I first wanted to talk to the section pertaining to the designation of the zone. It specifically states that it will promote economic welfare for the residents of Trumbull County and municipalities and townships by creating new jobs and retaining and preserving existing jobs and employment opportunities within such areas. Speaking to this is directly to the retention of jobs, preserving existing jobs and employment opportunities. It suggests the program is not only about attraction, but is heavily rooted in the retention and expansion. This is also further supported by the second document in your packet, labeled number 2 at the top. If you take the paper clips off, I have, it's labeled number 2 at the top. These are the definitions to qualify an eligible investment for any enterprise zone agreement directly from revised code 5709.61. Specifically, item number 2, the second item in the definitions, directly speaks to expansion, and item 3 speaks to renovation of existing facilities. And at the bottom of that same document, I want to emphasize, I think this is missed a lot when we talk about tax incentives or tax abatements. Existing land values and existing building values are not eligible for abatements. The current taxes that are being paid are not eligible to be abated or reduced in any way. This explicitly deals with new investment in the form of establishing, expanding, renovating, or occupying a facility. And in fact, 14 of our current active abatements were expansions of existing companies, a lot of whom had received an abatement prior for either a previous expansion or locating within this area. And if you go back to the first document labeled number 1, the second highlighted speaks specifically to the powers and duties provided in the Ohio Revised Code by 579.63. And that section specifically says that the Board of County Commissioners does hereby delegate legislative authority to each municipality or Board of Township Trustees all powers and duties given to the counties by section 5709.63 of the Revised Code to negotiate enterprise zone agreements with regard to enterprises located or locating in its boundaries. To give you a little bit more, that third document within that package is a copy paste directly from Ohio Revised Code 5709.63. The specific powers and duties that were delegated to these communities. And those, it speaks to the number of years, percentage, and ability to provide to an enterprise zone with plans to either establish, expand, renovate, or occupy based on the county's legislation to negotiate powers. The percentage of length of the abatement is solely within the community affected. In addition, I wanted to point out historically, Warren and several other cities in Trumbull County had their own enterprise zones separate of the county. In 1994, they agreed to participate within the county-wide enterprise zone to aid our townships. One of the reasons is otherwise that would not have been able to create the enterprise zone that we have because there's a requirement for contiguous boundaries. The way our municipalities are set up, that would break up a lot of our townships and we would not be able to serve as many of the townships that we do with these. So Warren City, who had their own, several other cities voluntarily worked with the county to create the countywide enterprise zone. And I wanted to point out the fourth document in this packet that was provided to you is the ordinance from the city of Warren that was passed at the time that they decided to participate in this program. And on there is a highlighted section on page 2 that specifically states that the county will concur with all agreements negotiated by the city with affected businesses and approved by the city council. So should the commissioners want to change this legislation so that we can have some kind of dictation over the negotiations in terms with companies or a rubric, there's a process to amend, which is the 5th document in your packet. This is directly from the Ohio Department of Development. There's a process to amend our legislation. The county would need legislation concurring from all 30 of the communities that are currently participating in the countywide enterprise zone prior to the commissioners having the ability to edit their own legislation, adding any kind of rubric or guidelines. I want to point out that the Planning Commission does have a draft rubric template that was devised in 2019 with the help of the building trades in the regional chamber at the time. This was done in 2019 at the direction of then Commissioner Polifka, following the passage of the TJX Home Goods facility. That was contested heavily by our local unions. They wanted to make sure that things were being guided. So at the direction of Commissioner Polifka, we did sit down with the building trades, the regional chamber, and advised a rubric. This was also then revisited at the request of Commissioner Frenchcoat following the passage of the Trumbull Energy Center in 2022. And we reached out to all of the 30 affected communities at those times, both times. There are some communities that were willing to participate and like that as an idea. There was also several that sought this as a power grab from the commissioners. That they currently have the ability to negotiate what they would like to do, and they do not want to relinquish that power. In 2024, this arose again, and the planning commission sought legal input from the prosecutor's office following a no vote from then Commissioner Campbell Mesa. Our prosecutor's office did extensive research on the history of Trumbull County's enterprise zone creation and previous agreements, the terms of the county legislation, Ohio Revised Code, guidance from the Department of Development, and the County Commissioners Association of Ohio handbook. Samantha Heck from Assistant Prosecutor from the Prosecutor's Office is here. If you do have any questions of that, and she did issue a legal opinion that I would share with you in confidence. And if should you have any questions regarding that legal opinion, I believe she would be here and able to answer that. All that being said, this issue has been visited, but if there are a lot of new political faces in a lot of the affected communities. Should the commissioners wish to revisit the idea of having a rubric or a guideline, we can certainly begin reaching out to the communities to request their participation. But I want to emphasize that it is a request that they currently hold those powers of negotiation. And I do want to point out that if any city who also still has the power within Ohio Revised Code to create their own enterprise zone decides to not participate and go on their own, it could drastically change the structure of the countywide enterprise zone and affect our surrounding townships who would not be able to participate due to the requirement of the contiguous boundaries of the countywide enterprise zone. So if it is the wish of the commissioners, we can continue with this process and we can reach out to those communities again and see if their opinion has changed with new faces. But as it stands right now, they currently hold that power of negotiation as far as terms of percentage. And the last 2 times we visited, they were not willing to relinquish that authority. Commissioners, if you have any questions.
I don't
My
have,
first question, yeah, go ahead.
okay, I don't have any questions, but first of all, I'd like to thank Charles Manufacturing for the continued investment in Trumbull County. I understand the commissioner had mentioned that it's going to benefit Warren. I believe it's going to benefit the county. We are a county. Warren's part of our county. In it, as you had said, the township's employment, anytime somebody comes in and wants to make that type of an investment, we should, as commissioners, look at that and we should emphasize economic development. I think this is a great way to bring companies in, manufacturing, employment. That's what we're all about. Commissioners, this is our job. Commissioner, I understand your point about, maybe looking at, if there's one employee or maybe a $10,000 investment. Yes, I would agree. There's certain criteria that you have to look at, but this seems a lot more complicated than just saying we're going to change this, this rubric. We're going to, all these 30 communities, which you have visited prior, there's several that just aren't interested. And I think we'd be beating our head against the wall. Nothing against, the fact that taxpayers may look at this. Yes, we understand that we are all for tax reform, property tax reform, but we're also, as commissioners, obligated and responsible to stimulate economic activity. And I was a yes vote last week. I'll be a yes vote this week. I'm one commissioner. I'm putting that out there, and I will put myself on the line to say that. But I understand where the commissioner was coming from. But quite personally, me personally, I believe that any business of this size, especially since they've been here for the number of years they've been here, wanting to expand, I'm all for it. Listen, Trumbull County's open for business. And the only way we're going to stimulate this business is by these types of procedures, being able to offer them something that maybe they can't get if they were to go somewhere else. That's my spill on it. And again, I just want to thank the mayor, city council. I want to thank Charles Manufacturing, everybody that's been involved in this. I'm sorry that it came to this today. I think we should have done this last week, but we're here and we have an opportunity tomorrow, to make it happen.
Well, my comment before I open it up to the mayor and everybody. So the way if I understand your presentation is the way everything, the document and the agreement's written up, once city council approved it, then we as a board, we shall or must approve that, right? And we don't have a really legal stand to turn it down at this point in time, the way the legislation and the agreement's written. Is that correct?
Yes, Samantha Heck, prosecutor's office. We delegated all the authority to the local municipality for the negotiation portion of this. So at this point, it's a more of a ministerial act. If there's something wrong with the procedure or if there was something done that where, the agreement didn't follow the law, then there's a reason on procedural manner to say, but based on the negotiation delegation, we don't have more authority.
So the way it stands now, if we disapproved it, we wouldn't be doing the city of Warren or the manufacturer justice then. I mean, the decision was made by city council and the mayor and the administration that they wanted that. And I'm fine with that. I just wanted to clarify that. And then the other thing is, Nick, you said that this was brought out in 2024. So people knew about this prior to this?
In 2024, that there was an enterprise zone at that time that was contested. And it ended up being a yes vote, an abstention, and a no vote. At that time, we reached out to the prosecutor's office to see if the commissioners had the ability to do that. Based on our reading of the legislation and past practice, the county does all the administration. We do public notices to the school districts. We schedule the hearing with the affected community. We schedule the public hearing with the commissioners. We send notice to the affected school districts. We work with the prosecutor's office to put together the agreement language. We make sure that we get all the signatures and have it sent to the state within 15 days. We do the administrative process. We make sure it's reviewed by the Tax Incentive Review Council here. And that has always been the case. So we wanted to see, because the last one came up because the negotiated terms were not favored by the commissioners at the time, or a commissioner at the time. It was discussed at that point. So we wanted to reach out and see if that was even a possibility based on the way the legislation was done. And I believe Assistant Prosecutor Heck had done a significant amount of research to verify all of that.
So why was that one denied then?
It wasn't denied. It's still in limbo. It is a yes vote, a no vote, and an abstention. It is a tie.
All right, but you're saying you can't have it that way. So why hasn't that been pushed through then? If we have to vote yes, why was Morrow allowed to vote no?
Mr. Keys.
From the city of Warren's point of view,
Would you say your name, please?
I'm sorry, Mike Keys with the city of Warren. They want to pursue it. The company at that time asked us not to and said that they were willing to forego the incentive because of that publicity the company was getting for being on the front page. So based on her wishes not to take it any further, we withdrew the application. And I don't think that she's going to submit it again, nor will she, fight the original decision.
But if she sees this, I don't know why every business in the county would jump in on it. Because right now, we just had more than a dozen superintendents of school boards come in here and basically say, don't take any money away from us. When we're talking about the homestead exemption and the single owner occupancy, we don't have enough money. We're barely hanging on. Articles in the paper this week about Lakeview may not make it anyway. And now we're here saying, as we're getting a huge economic boom, which is coming, we know it's coming. Why wouldn't every business out there apply for this, which is going to take more money away from the schools? And with our blessing, we're operating on a document from 1994 that the commissioners agreed to, that half those people are dead. And if we ran this county like we did in 1994, we'd run it into the ground. So what I'm saying is we need to set some form of a unified policy or procedure moving forward so that we can have economic growth like we're having. But at the same time, we don't get a lot of small ones and twos and people applying for this thing, and we can't hand these things out like they're candy.
Commissioner Samantha Heck, and Nick can correct me if I'm wrong on this. When you enact the enterprise zone agreement, without that investment, there's no change in what the actual tax basis was. So if a manufacturing company pays, for example, $500,000 in taxes, they invest that money and there's a reduction in the taxes from that
during enterprise zone period. There's no, that $500,000 if you're paying taxes, as an example, stays the same. Now, once the enterprise zone is over, the money that then goes to schools, but if you don't have the investment in the first place, then there's no money lost. You might lose the future money. So it's not that you're taking money with the enterprise zone agreements from any community or school.
Well, for 10 years, they're not gonna get it.
But if they don't invest, then they got nothing in 10 years.
Right, here's my question, Nick, and I think I asked you this last week. So if they come in with a 10-year abatement, is there any way that can be lowered maybe to a 5-year abatement? You know, is there procedures in that could happen? Especially on a smaller investment.
Nick Coggins from County Planning Commission. So yes, that is part of the terms that are negotiated by the affected community. And I think I do want to point out that a lot of times with these smaller investments, sometimes that makes the request for abatement null or moot point, lowering that. Because again, if as Assistant Prosecutor Heck pointed out, if a company's paying $100,000 in taxes, they are still going to pay $100,000 in taxes. When they make an expansion, that $100,000 gets added onto with that expansion. Say it increases the value another 100,000. In this case, 25% or 75% abatement. 25,000 is still new income and new tax revenue. There is no loss of revenue. There's a gain in revenue. You forego unrealized gains or projected in new taxes based on what they say their investments and what their structure is going to be. A lot of times, if the abatement doesn't go forward, it doesn't make financial sense to do the expansion. And a lot of companies may possibly do that in the future, but instead of doing it now, it takes them 5 years to do that expansion. It could take them 10 years to do that expansion. At that point, you still lose the tax base. You don't gain any new tax base. And there's some companies that will simply not do it at all. So again, anything that's existing now does not get reduced. Any income that's coming in currently does not get reduced. It is based on their potential investment. And so a lot of companies, if they do not get the abatement, will not make the investment or will extend that investment over a period of time where we don't see the gains anyway. So it is. That's why this is used as an economic development tool is reducing that tax burden allows companies to either invest more money, create new jobs faster because they don't have that new additional burden of additional taxes. And again, I guess I want to point out that, you know, on these smaller abatements, if an expansion is only valued at $100,000 of appraisal versus a company or a building that's valued at $1 million appraisal value, the tax savings on, even if it's the same apples for apples, 60%, 75%, whatever it may be, 75% savings on $1 million, which is 75% savings on $100,000 is valuable. On top of that, this program has a mandatory annual fee, which then that smaller investment still reduces their percentage based on that investment of the annual fee. So there's a lot of nuances that go into this that make it hard for smaller companies or smaller expansions to move forward without that.
Okay. Before I call on the mayor, I only have one comment, and I agree with your comment last week, Mayor. I think we need to look at the small businesses just like we look at the large businesses, because there's so many small businesses out here that not only the city but Trumbull County counts on our economic development. So I totally agree with that statement. And now I'd like to call on the great mayor from the city of Warren.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone, the commissioners, for allowing us to participate in this workshop. We really appreciate you getting it on the agenda real expeditiously. It's very important. There's several things. And thank you, Nick and Commissioner Hernandez and President Anthony for allowing us to have this opportunity to talk about this issue. Several years ago, I think it was in '94, when the city decided to become a part of the county enterprise zone when we had our own. That was done, and I want to be clear about that. That was done in the spirit of cooperation for regional growth. We understood that's important, that we work with our townships, we've been operating like that as a community ever since I've been in public service, ever since I've had the authority to extend the olive branches to other communities and break down some of those old political barriers that have held our county back and our city back for so long. We're finally at that point. I think where we're at that turning point where we can make a real difference. Be mindful of the fact, as it was stated in your presentation, and thank you for that. The city has done everything that it needed to do on this issue. We have the authority. But your vote is important for several reasons. Most importantly, by the message that you send to other existing companies or potential companies that are out there looking at how we do business. If you say the county is open for business, then we have to act like it. We have to perform like we're open for business. We have to make sure that we're doing everything and we're working together cooperatively. We always work for our school districts with our labor unions. There is no opposition on this issue. We thank Charles Manufacturing for over $250,000 investment. And as stated plainly by Nick, the abatement is only on new investment. No one loses anything. But if you turn them away and they can't do this, who wins? So I think it's a pretty simple proposition. But I would ask for your support on this so that the message that we're sending to potential businesses and investors who are looking at our community, they look at how we do business. They're right in the pipeline. They want to make sure this is a friendly place to do business, not just by what we say, but by what we do and how we show that. And thanks for letting me talk.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I have one other comment prior, and thank you, Mayor.
And I also like to just acknowledge and thank our partners from Lake River in the chamber.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mayor.
And the mayor brought up a very important piece. There was no opposition. So we're here with a company and an investment asking for abatement and no opposition. To me, that's a no-brainer. So.
And if I could add, you've done your part as clear. You had a public hearing. Everybody had the opportunity. The notifications were out. Everybody's okay with that. So let's operate as one and do the right thing.
Would anybody from Lake to River or the chamber, would you guys like to make a comment? You don't have to.
You know,
I'm just offer you. I think your name.
Mike McGiffin, Lake to River Economic Development. My comment is simple. We have the easy job on this side of the relationship. You know, our job is to help you guys think strategically, but more so to bring development and help the companies who are here expand within this part. You all have a more difficult job of making decisions that impact the residents of counties more personally. So my comment is that I don't have, but happy to be a partner and happy to serve.
Thank you.
I'd like for the owner to talk because he did enlighten me on a lot of things when we had our conversation.
Sure. Please state your name, please.
Thank you. Yeah, Dave Frazier. I'm here representing Charles Manufacturing. And I talked with Commissioner Moy last week. We had a really nice conversation last week, in spite of the illnesses he's struggling with. But yeah, I shared with him the fact that I was born and raised in Warren and worked in a number of industries after high school before going off to High Northern. Went off to school and got my engineering degree and did my internship at U.S. Steel in Lorain, Ohio, and got my PE designation in 1985 in the state of Ohio. In 1982, my wife Chris and I started Charles Manufacturing in a garage, believe it or not, on Elmwood, which is between Larchmont and North Park. And I was able to sell an idea to a company out in Massachusetts that had a pretty brisk mail order business. I had developed a product, got a patent on it, and you know, for somebody that didn't really have the equipment to sell or the equipment to make this stuff, I was grateful that this company in Massachusetts gave me a break. because they had quite a great mail order business. So anyway, that's how we got started. We did that for about 10 years, making this product. It was a chimney related product. We had a National Fire Protection Association approval on that part. And so that it kind of got me into the sheet metal business. We were buying parts, putting parts together and selling them. Then we started to buy some equipment, make our own parts. And we were started to do some business like Roth Brothers in Youngstown and Packard Electric. So then come the late 80s, we needed more space and we found space in the old Grinnell building. I don't know if any of you would remember that. It's on Dana Street. And we had a small section in there that we were able to utilize. And we grew the business again by working a little more heavily with Packard Electric at the time. Then in 1991, I met Jack Foley with the city of Warren. He was, I believe, the director of development. And he introduced me to Don French, who at the time was running Mahoning Valley Economic Development. And they were working together with Warren City to develop what was going to become Warren Commerce Park. And they wanted someone to go in there and build. So there was no street, there were no utilities, there was really nothing in there at the time. And we got together with Second National Bank at the time, got an SBA loan, and we were able to put up a building in 93, 10,000 square foot building. And that went very well. The city followed through and put the street in before we actually opened our doors. And we actually got a sewer as well. So the business grew over the next 10 years. And in 2004, we added another 20,000 square foot. And we didn't ask for abatement at that point in time. So today, bringing us up to date, we service about 130 customers in northeastern Ohio with a variety of sheet metal parts. So these could be anywhere from electric panels to guards to covers, and these are all components that go into machine building and instrument building, of which there are quite a few in this area. Companies like Drake, Lextra, Blunt, Quality Switch, Valoric, Triad, Control Transformer, Catron, Ajax, Taylor Winfield, Everett, Altronic, ABI, Brilex. We've done business with these companies for years, and our book of business is very strong. 26 and 27 looks really good, and I need more help. I need more help in the engineering area, the product development, and also in accounting. And so that was what pushed us to the space we have for office right now is really tight, and it's just not enough space for us. So that's why we wanted to put on this working group. So I think what we're bringing in is some really good jobs. We're projecting 400,000 in payroll for 4 full-time people and 2 part-timers. And now we have 15 employees now, of which 13 of them live in Trumbull County. So as I see it, we're selling parts that are going outside the county. So we're bringing money into the county. And then those 13 employees are spending it in Trumbull County. So I think, my opinion is anybody that comes to you with manufacturing proposal, that should be a gimme because it's a very inexpensive investment on the part of county. For us, for instance, for $250,000, it's going to be a small amount of investment on your side. On my side, I'm putting $400,000 into payroll. I think that's great for this community. So that's kind of where we're at and what we're looking for. I really appreciate the opportunity to come today and to speak with you about this. And growing up in Warren, it's always been been a great place for me to have established, and I appreciated the fact that being able to grow the business here. I remember Warren from the '60s, and it was fabulous back then. It's still fabulous, don't get me wrong, but we don't have those big J&L, we don't have Copperwell, we don't have Delphi, we don't have all these big companies. Everything's downsized now, and it's much more efficient, smaller companies. So I think that's who you want to try to attract. Just my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I agree with Mr. Hernandez. We need small companies, small manufacturers like yourself. And if I read you clear, this is your second expansion since you've been over there on Enterprise Zone, correct?
Correct.
So that shows us that you're moving in the right direction, and hopefully tomorrow the board will have a different outcome.
Well, Mr. Commissioner, that's exactly why I wanted him here. That was a home run presentation there. The last week, we were going to vote on something. You didn't know what they manufactured. Rick, you didn't know what they manufactured. None of us had heard of Charles Manufacturing. Chamber of Commerce, when I called them, they didn't know what they manufactured. So we were going to sit here and rubber stamp something that we knew nothing about.
Now, wait, I want to,
Let me finish.
I'm gonna have to.
Let me finish.
Okay.
We asked in the room when we had the hearing, what do they manufacture? One person in the room gave an answer. That was Nick. Knew a little bit of what they did, but not nowhere near in depth of what he just presented to us. That's what I'm saying. When we do these things, we need more information. We need to know this type of stuff because there's a story behind this. This isn't a business taking advantage of a tax incentive just to take advantage of the taxpayers in no way, shape, or form. I'm just warning us as we move forward, as we grow. There may be some people out there down the road that will try to take advantage of everything they can to get a leg up or to take advantage of the program because it's there. This is not that situation. So, Commissioner, I applaud you for delaying it a week last week and siding with me so we can learn. I'm actually going to go and tour the factory today when this is done. And I know more about it. I feel comfortable with the yes vote at this point now because I know the backstory and I'm not going to sign my name to something that I knew nothing about as of last week.
Okay, and I can appreciate that, Commissioner, but I got to tell you, I put a lot of faith in my planning commission. I put faith in city council. I put faith in the mayor that they had done their due diligence and brought it to the commissioners. We had a meeting on it. We had no opposition. I've heard of Charles Manufacturing. I've never been there, but I have heard of your company, sir. And again, I appreciate your investment. I have to, and I would agree with you, Commissioner, that it would be a nice gesture to have a CEO or a company owner here. Absolutely. But when they're not available, or if they're not there, then we have to rely on the people that we employ here that give us the information that, you know, that we pertinent information that we rely on. I'm just going to keep saying I was a yes vote last week. Commissioner, I agree with you that I appreciate the delay because we were able now to actually meet with the company owner. That's a great thing. But again, it's not always going to happen, Commissioner. We have to rely on, you know, council, the mayors, planning commission, our prosecutor's office, and we have to make those decisions.
But we have to do some due diligence before we.
I'm not saying we don't, but in this case, I'm just putting.
I agree. What I disagree with was the way it was handled. We had a public hearing, we had a workshop. None of those questions came up that, and I thought maybe that was the time to do that. And that's why I asked last week at the meeting that the board table it so we could find this out. And I think we're all a lot more knowledgeable on what's going on. And I know as far as tax abatement, I reached out to Nick Coggins last week, and then with this presentation today, so I'm a lot more knowledgeable. And I agree. I think maybe there ought to be some rules in that, but it's not that easy where the commissioners say, "Well, we don't like it."
It's not that I can walk out of here today. If I get a call from a constituent, I can defend him and not say I'm trusting Nick.
Yeah, but this came up in 2024. So you know that
I voted yes in 2024, and it was didn't pass.
But most of the information was already presented. Rick, Commissioner Hernandez, and I didn't know that. And luckily we have a great manufacturer owner that didn't get discouraged and pull it out and say, well, I'm not gonna do any further expansion. So, I do commend you for that. And, we're here to help small businesses. We're here to help the city of Warren. And Samantha, I thank you for all the work you put into it. Nick, again, great presentation. I think the whole board is a lot more knowledgeable. So I think we could move ahead tomorrow and with a very positive approach to
And
it.
I'll just ask moving forward, we do the same thing. And we get more backstory, more information before it gets to us. That's
that, Commissioner, but do that the day before, not at the 11th hour when it was presented. I mean, that's just my theory. The same questions, you probably had the same questions at a workshop as you had on Wednesday, but you waited till.
And I took Tuesday night to get the answers. And when I didn't get all the answers that I had,
Well,
there's a chamber.
Just saying, hey, gentlemen, you know what, before we read it, just say, gentlemen, I would like to have this on the table so I can get more information, but here we go, we're moving on anyway. So Mayor, hopefully the city and everybody will be happy.
Thank you, Mayor Franklin, City of Warren. And thank you for the whole conversation. And I want to thank Nick again, because there was a lot of things that I think we needed to rediscover about that economic development tool called an enterprise zone, and how we need to be very mindful of keeping that intact, I think, as it is, because that's going to help the region. And at the end of the day, what's good for Warren is good for the county. I got to thank Mike Keys, who's worked hand in hand with Nick on these things, and who gives me my information about the who peels the onion and tells me the details of Charles Manufacturing. And thanks, Mr. Fraser, for coming down. His brother was my science teacher. I didn't do well, but I've known the Fraser family has been dedicated to our community, to the county, for as long as I can remember. So thanks for coming down and telling that story. It was a color, as Commissioner Moore said. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank everybody for your input and clarifying a lot of issues for us. So as we move on, anyone else have any comments they'd like to present today? Yes, sir. Like to come up, state your name and.
Dan Keating, private citizen and local attorney. And I want to talk about public transit in Trumbull County. I have a letter drafted that you can chew on for a little bit. I've got one to Bill. Sure. I served as counsel for the Trumbull Transit Board that was later disbanded, and transit went back to the commissioners. And in the last year of the Transit Board gave 60,000 rides. And the cost to the county was from the senior levy of about 420,000. I might not be exact on that. Maybe it was 450, but nothing like the money that is being spent now by the county to only transport seniors and disabled. So it's in the hands of the county commissioners, without appointing a transit board, to revive public transit in Trumbull County. The key is to put together a request for proposals, for bids, and specifically under the 5307 program that is urbanized transit. That opens it up to the entire public. There could be a grant from the feds under 5307. A portion of the funds currently being paid to the Western Reserve Transit Authority would be assigned to Trumbull Transit, administered by the commissioners. And very simply, we may have public transit then available for all citizens. Obviously, a lot of details. Things have to come together.
Commissioners,
Excuse me.
yeah, looking at this, and Commissioner, you and I were going to, well, you had mentioned about talking to the prosecutor's office.
I was going to say,
concerning transportation and putting this out for bid or an RFP, whatever you want to call it. we're talking about the 11th hour. I think we are at the 11th hour of transportation. We're gonna have to make some decisions here. And, you know, personally, as one commissioner, and the fact that Warren there's 5307 money that's available along with the 5310 money that can take those riders that aren't currently being serviced to and from Warren to their job, to their jobs, to the store, to the, to get their prescriptions. We are servicing the seniors and, those that, are. I don't know if you in the past you're an attorney for the Port Authority?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Have been.
In the past, and I don't know, and I have to ask Bill this, the process for if there were to be an RFP or something put out for bid, how that looks. You know what I mean? I don't know all those particulars if we were to do something like that. I mean, it'd be easy just to say, hey, listen, we're gonna hire another transportation administrator. Personally, as one commissioner, I don't believe that's a way to go. I believe Warren needs service. I believe the entire county needs service. And the only way to do that is probably to get a company or a service in here that can handle that type of volume.
Commissioners, Bill Danso, prosecutor's office. That I think is one of the commissioner's options. And I think that, it's ultimately at this point, the commissioners just really, are going to be in a position to think about where they want to go with transit as it moves along. But I do think, we've talked before, there's essentially a few different main options for counties to have transit. You've got your regional transit authority, which, the WRTA is, doing down in Mahoning County. You've got the transit board that we used to have here, and you've got the commissioners run system. There's some kind of subsidiary things to that. The councils of government can run a transit system, for example, in some places. But here, right now, we're talking generally about those three choices if the commissioners are to continue with some sort of a transit thing. We have done bids in the past for this. I believe the most recent one was right around 2019 or 2020, somewhere around there. I believe Mr. Salomon helped with that bid process, so he is familiar with it. If we were to do it again, I'm sure there's a template out there somewhere from that bid package that was sent out. My recollection is we had 2 or 3 bid responses last time. Now, that was, I believe, you could correct me if I'm wrong on this too. I think that Transit Board was technically still doing that at that time, and it had not reverted to a commissioner-run system at that point. But it would be the same process, essentially. You've got a contract in excess of, this year somewhere around $80,000 of competitive bidding. So it would go out to bid. The specs would sort of outline how the commissioners wanted to get those numbers back, would get the numbers back, and then proceed. There is a little bit of a newish from 2018-19 era statute in the revised code when it comes to transit for transit franchises. I am not personally aware of anybody in the state that's using it right now, but I admit I haven't kept up on statewide transit legal issues. But it is a relatively recent addition to the statute that has a separate bidding process. And that's the reason I bring it up. It's a little bit of a different process, but it allows, in fact, I think it requires for a minimum of a 10-year contract. And the theory with the transit franchise, I think, is you're bringing in a long-term vendor that is capable of not only getting the contract, but then growing and scaling the transit system to meet the needs of the county. Again, I can't tell you that I have any experience with it other than I know the law exists. I know that we've looked at it just very briefly when it came into effect. But I can't give you any pluses and minuses when it comes to how that actually would be implemented in a county. But again, those are your main things. And, I think that, Mr. Keating's bringing up a good option here. If that's the way the board wants to go, it certainly is an option to go out for bid for this and sort of run it. Now, I will say, like I think we had this talk before, but as we had in the past, that still does require a designated county employee to sort of oversee that contract and kind of give the check off and the sign off to it. And I think in the past, we had Mark Hess here as a transit, I can't remember his title. We've had mobility managers, we've had, Mike Salomon came in with a little bit different title, but essentially for, I believe, compliance with the federal grants and things like that, you are required, I believe, to have a county actual official that's assigned. Now, again, that county official's role would be different than if we operated it all ourselves without a contractor. But there would still need to be some designee from the county, I believe, to kind of administer that if that's the way the county decided to go.
Bill, not county elected official, just a county employee?
As far as I understand, employee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to be clear about it.
Now, again, just to be clear on that, though, that if the commissioners didn't create a new transit board, if you didn't create a regional transit authority, it would be a commissioner-run system. So ultimately, that employee would report to the board and be responsible to the board for the operation and the oversight of that system. But it doesn't have to be an elected official.
Well, I think that's an issue that the board's gonna have to look at. I'm just not prepared to know what direction to go. I think, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still in the information process because every time I talk to somebody has a different idea. What's the best idea? I'm not sure at this point.
If we're going to a regional type of thing like we're talking about, should the city warrant be included in the talks again then?
I would think so.
They had the 5310 back in the day. Should they be part of the thing? Because we're talking rides in Warren, a lot of them, sure. I'm sure there were before with the old system, wasn't there?
That's
Fifty-three.
7. Was it 5310 or 5307?
I'm not sure.
5310, 5310 is what we're having now for elderly disabled.
Or 5307 was Warren, the city of Warren.
Yes.
Okay.
So Mayor, you're saying that Niles was included?
Niles ran it for a little while. As well. We kind of wanted to get out of it, but we were still participating financially. So yeah, I would include all those municipalities in the conversation. I've been workshops and ready this. I don't know the timelines on how soon you would need to do this, but yeah, we would definitely be in the conversation.
We have an administrator retiring in May. He's actually.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is he still? I know he was winding down. Mr. Keys, he's always been my point person on everything. On the transportation issue, you know how that was relegated in the past when the city of Warren and the county decided to give Niles a lot of the responsibility.
State your name, please. State your name.
Oh, Mike Keys, City of Warren. You're going back as far as Trumbull actually, it's TAC, TACT, which was the original. As a matter of fact, Kathy's open was with these games. So, and then it was the City of Warren and Niles each had capacity act was leading. I think the city did for a while and eventually turned it all. That's what Mark S. got involved. We ran into their auspices for a few years with the city, just contributing dollars to the city.
Yeah. And that's, Bill Danso again, that was where the county sort of took that over again after the cities had managed it under Niles NITS. I think it was Niles Transit, something about 2011 or so, I think is when the county took that over to run. So, there's definitely a history of transit here among all the players, but now it's just, I think it's coming down to the board, maybe meeting with those stakeholders, figuring out what direction you want to go. And the mayor is, from my understanding, that's absolutely true. I think that even some of the smaller municipalities in the county had a contract with either NITS or Trumbull Transit when we had it here with the county to pay, some of the fees and the cost of transit running to those subdivisions as well for income. And I believe that income was then used as maybe some of the match money to help get more of those federal dollars back for transit at the time.
So it would be suggested to get those players all together prior to thinking about, RFP or out for bid.
I think if that's the direction the commissioners are looking to
This
go,
is why I'm
it's
saying
kind of
I don't know.
reinstituting, a different type of transit.
it certainly would be good if you go that way to bring all those people back to the table, because again, you know, depending on whether you do by size of municipality or whatever, however it's going to be negotiated, their input and their financial contribution could be important to determine how much money the commissioners have available then to dedicate to that transit or to receive back from grant sources to help offset the cost of the transit. Yes.
Alex Jonesy Bush, Human Resources Department, and specifically for that RTA concept bill, that is the one that requires the dedicated funding. So it has to have a substantial ongoing dedicated funding source to even be able to be substantiated long term. So you have to sign up for that commitment of, which would take community partners, engagement stakeholders to, in order to even create that RTA, you have to go forward, create the board, and each board member would have to be a community stakeholder. That's why that's going to take a little bit more time. There are the three options. Bill put it very well. But with us, again, the only reason HR not having a potential administrator come May 1st, the board does need to make a decision. I know you hate to hear me tell you that, but you got to delineate to us which option, RTA, transit board, or county run. So that way, you know, if you choose a transit board or county run, HR can start to figure out who we need to hire or what that looks like. Now, an RTA would be totally separate because, again, that's a community-wide, different stakeholders, different methodology. But it does kind of matter what the board wants to do, which why we've been having those conversations, including the meeting.
Yeah, but before I make that decision, that's one, I want to hear the pros and cons
Yeah.
of each one.
I get that.
I think it has to be laid out. Don't tell me all the good. I want to know
Yeah.
some of the bad, if there is bad.
That's good.
Okay, and then we can make that decision. And be perfectly honest, I don't have those answers right now. So we need a meeting to get those answers.
I know.
Correct? I mean, you know, that's our first step. We need a meeting. Have everybody come in here and everybody tell us, you give us the pros and the cons of this. And I think we have enough knowledgeable people here. We have Bill Danzo has been here a long time and he knows the pros and cons of the system. And I think you do.
But have a meeting with who, Commissioner? Like with the.
With everybody involved.
It sounds like a hot potato. Niles had it, Warren had it, they passed it on, we took it, we passed it on. So there's gotta be some history there, why people all pick up.
Well, I think we need RTA, I think we need those in favor of RTA, those in favor of WRTA, and those in favor of the system that we have now, okay?
I don't think WRTA that's not an option.
So the RTA and WRTA are
Those are
two
different.
separate things.
Oh, you're not talking WRTA.
The RTA, regional
You're
transit,
talking
yeah.
Regional Transit Authority.
Right.
Okay.
That's kind of where everything got a little bit commingled in the past was that when
Yeah, you don't want to.
that is an yes.
And that's, you know, Bill Danso again, that was, obviously that was the talk at one point about potentially joining the WRTA. And it is a legal way, there is a legal way to make that happen if they would agree and everything. But again, I think what we got hung up with last time on that was the potential tax implications of joining them because of their existing tax that they've got to operate with.
Right.
And, you know, I think that there was a thought that was going to be it could be a substantial tax on Trumbull County.
I also think that Mahoney was able to vote, like we really didn't have
They had
our own
four.
voice. Trumbull County did not have its own
Yes,
voice.
so there were some reasons that that it was determined not to go that way in the past.
Well, I just think,
I guess we're gonna have to
we
make
need a
a.
meeting sooner than later, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I'll throw out there also, and I don't know if it's available or not, but back when we did this, when we took over in the county from Niles Transit, there was an offer from ODOT at the time. They had a grant for technical assistance for transit planning. And I recognize now that was years ago, you know, that was quite a while back. But if it's still an option, you know, we could try to have someone reach out to ODOT and see, is that technical assistance out there still available? When you mentioned, you know, positives and negatives and different things, I don't know if the technical assistance gets into that or whether it just gets into more of the actual planning and strategic mapping for the transit. But it was something that the Board of Commissioners at that time chose not to do. But it is something that might be helpful as you guys determine. Now, the problem is obviously time frame. I don't know how long that technical assistance takes. So
I just wanted to throw it out, food for thought.
Well, we'll instruct the clerk, she can she can advise everybody, notify them, and we'll get a meeting as soon as we can. And hopefully the mayor, or someone from either you or someone from administration will be here. Well, with Niles and anybody else that wants to be here. Mr. Keating, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Mr. Chair, we tabled the auditor's new contract last week. We gonna address that again sometime soon.
I'm not ready. I'm gathering some more information on that. I think before I address that, I would like to have another executive session at some point in time.
Commissioners, for what it's worth, I'm watching the clock, so we have 30 days post when to be able to make for the board to make an informed decision. So the only thing I can promise you is that I will not let that 30 days go by without you voting either way, because once that 30th day hits, it's automatically approved, whether you approve it or not. So it is extremely important that if you have reservations or if you have questions or whatever the case may be, that you get those answered before we default to a 30th day and then it does not get voted on. And by default, it goes into effect immediately.
Commissioners, I have another thing while the mayor's still here, because he may know, but it might be council, I'm not sure, but we did receive an email concerning a dog warden that they're looking to hire. The dog warden, well, who are they looking to hire? They're asking a question as if whether our dog warden could be in some sort of a training process. Now, the problem with that is you run into time, you run into, no disrespect to the city, but I'm not sure how that works out with our dog warden. Alex, have you spoke with Matthew about that?
Yes. Well, Alex Stephen Bush, yes. I was just made aware yesterday. I specifically asked Matthew to put something in writing to the commissioners, including HR and our prosecutor, to do a further analysis. From what I will tell you, I did ask him if he could quantify what had happened in the past because they kept bringing up a name, maybe a P. A previous dog warden, I thought I had written it down, but he was able to confirm, not saying that it's right or wrong, so I'm not making any, just stating facts, that apparently our previous dog warden had trained the previous Warren City dog warden. I don't know, I don't have anything, I can't find anything contextual to say that there was an agreement to do that or how that happened. I think it was maybe just done. But again, I don't know what I don't know. Just found it yesterday. I'm still in the midst of doing multiple
Yeah, he sent an
things.
email to that effect.
Yes, he did. I had him put that to the board so everybody was informed. Because I do believe in it should be an informed decision. And we should weigh out all the pros and cons as we always should. That is something that I believe in. Obviously it's county dollars paying for, potential training. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we just need to look at it.
I'm just bringing it up.
We didn't know if that
because
was the case though, for sure. And I'm glad you're here, Mayor. So
Well, another issue he has that he's new himself and.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
he just thinks maybe the timing.
isn't the
might not be
best, yeah.
right.
But is
probably
that an
council,
actual
right?
valid ask? Was that
Council.
what?
But I'm not sure what the question is.
Well, the question was, we received an email
From who?
that from the city, from our dog warden, that he was contacted from the city. The council's looking to hire a warden that would require some training.
Yes,
And that they
that's
would
true.
like to utilize our warden for
For
training
training.
purposes.
That's probably true.
Yeah,
That's probably true.
That was the first thing I just wanted to confirm. I mean, he did say he speak to him yesterday, but all of it was on the phone. So I just wanted to make sure that those were the facts before we start kind of
yes,
going down.
those are the facts. We are in-house dog warden who's going to need training.
okay.
And we
So-
know you're the first option and the first choice for training. I don't know the legalities or the certifications that are necessary.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well, I think we're on the right track. We have the dog warden and probably the HR to look into that to make sure, first of all, if he has time to do it, and if he's qualified to.
Correct.
I think that, but you know what? I would be glad as one commissioner to help out.
Oh, absolutely. But is that kind of like a shadowing kind of thing where he would come in and shadow the warden?
I think that would all have to be worked out.
Truly, just got
All right.
notified yesterday.
The only reason I brought it up is because the mayor's here, so.
No, it's a great, yeah, so it was, and excuse me, I knew it was a P. Anthony Pacini must have been trained, is what the email says.
See.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Was trained. Obviously, the terms were Warren City was going to provide him a proper vehicle. So they're not used. He kind of gives us just a brief analysis of, he would be coming in his own vehicle. It's not like we're, transport item. There's a lot of things in this kind of bulk email. So we will absolutely
reach out to us or
Well, I think
HR.
they have, and
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of Alex and Matthew getting back to them.
Okay.
Is it something
I'll
that the commissioners have?
I'll have Director Colbert reach out to Alex. Is that fine?
If that, I mean, if I could get, I know this sounds crazy, but a job description to know, we don't even really know if we're looking at apples to apples, or, I mean, obviously we're creatures of the code with the Ohio Revised Code for our dog warden. I would assume it's the same for cities, but I'm a county HR. I don't necessarily delve into the city matters, but I can absolutely try to figure it out. I just needed direction from the board first and foremost. Is this something you would like to entertain? We did do it in the past. I was able to quantify that. Again, I just have no knowledge of how we quantified it in the past, but hey, what else is new, right? We work it out. We figure it out.
Work it out.
So
And I have no knowledge of how that was done in the past. I don't.
the only caveat is I'm told, and this is the part that he starts Monday. Is that the case?
News to me. You got me, I came here for Charles Mann. But that's all I'm saying. I need to come to more of your workshops.
Mayor, we're welcome to one of our.
I'm familiar to the city council, so I feel.
Nothing surprises me anymore. So like truly when they said
Yeah.
he starts Monday, I was like, well, I guess I better figure this out really quickly. So
We'll work it out. So I'll have,
Okay.
and I'll have the job description and the officers, his start date and all of that, and they'll forward that information to you. And we can decide how we can work it out.
So it's been a few years since the city had a dog.
Correct.
So
John
you
O'Neill
Don O'Nats
was our last, and
What
we've
year
been
was that?
using supplemental services from Healthy Hearts and Paws. And that's become quite interesting.
That's only been a year.
Yeah,
Years that you haven't had a dog. walk?
correct.
Okay, right. I thought it was longer than that, but that's good. Okay. All right. Well, see if we can make some progress together.
Absolutely.
And sorry, one more question. Sorry, just because you're here, but maybe I can work through it with Mr. Colbert. That position is a union position, so we would also just want to make sure that there was no, as long as you guys are understanding that our dog warden is a non-union, but
Okay.
our staff is union. But it would be I know sometimes there's training.
Yeah, that's an ASPE 74 position.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would.
I don't think we have any issues, but I
There's
just have
no
to
issue
always
regardless
ask.
of where he gets his training, because regardless of what he is, he's got to be trained before.
Doesn't really matter by who, I
Right.
guess, but
So our concern is if you have the proper certifications for training.
I agree.
Yes.
Mayor, thank you. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you. And have breakfast next time.
Yeah.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anything else, commissioners?
I did have one thing also, just to alert the commissioners to,
Say your name.
Bill Danso, prosecutor's office. I will be working with Lisa today to get just a draft agenda item on for the electric aggregation. And I just wanted to let the board know, and I think you guys already are aware, but they are trying to work on the final lock-in of numbers to determine what they're gonna be. It could come as early as tomorrow, but we're not sure of that exactly yet. But I would like to get the resolution on. And the resolution would simply to be like we did with the gas aggregation, to authorize one of the commissioners to be the signing authority for that, so that we don't have to get all three of you together to sign off on the energy aggregation. And you can discuss amongst yourselves who would be the best suited to be here to do
I
that.
nominate Commissioner Denny Malloy for
And I'll
that.
second that.
But
And the only reason is, and the reason is, I mean, I'm already tied up for the afternoon, and I think Commissioner,
Yeah.
and
and there's a possibility apparently.
it may not even come tomorrow.
That's what I was just gonna say. There's a possibility it may not even be tomorrow, but it could be as early as then. So I think it's best just to get that agenda item on. It's a pretty brief one. It'll be ready to go when I give it to you, hopefully. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Thanks, Denny.
Well, we don't want to mess with his haircut day. So,
What's that?
we don't want to mess with
No,
it.
it's not haircut day.
Okay, anything else?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
One second.
Mr. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Mr. Bernard.
Yes.
Yep.